A true incarnation of the Archer class, Childe is a DPS monster in Genshin Impact with a very unique playstyle. What's up everyone, this is K Collections and I'll break down Childe's strength, skills, artifacts, weapon, how to use them, and to show you why you should summon Childe. His normal attack with the bow is the standard 6 shots we've seen 1,000 times. The charge shot is an attack you'll use often within his bow stance to inflict Riptide status on enemies. By doing so, you'll deal AoE hydro damage depending on the attack. In this case, another charge shot on an enemy with Riptide will trigger what's known as Riptide Flash, which deals continuous AoE damage for a brief time. Now, if you kill an enemy that has been infected by Riptide, it'll then trigger a Riptide Burst, which will inflict the status on nearby enemies, allowing Childe to continue his combos. His E skill switches him to a melee stance, which changes up his playstyle. The stance will last for 30 seconds and all attacks deals hydro damage. His new normal will have 6 slashes, while his charge is a very wide cross slash, which you can dash to skip the animation, otherwise it'll be slower. During his melee stance, you can trigger what's known as a Riptide Slash by hitting enemies that are infected by the status. This will cause a one-hit horizontal AoE slash, great for clearing out mobs. This will have a 1.5 second cooldown, so it's not continuous. An important thing to remember about his melee stance is that the longer he stays in this state, the longer the cooldown will be. Always remember to manually switch back to his bow or switch characters, which automatically switches him back. If you wait for the skill to end on its own, you'll be hit with a 45-second cooldown for his skill, so it's very important to manually change back. Another thing about his melee stance is that he can trigger Riptide status on enemies by dealing crit damage, making crit rates an important stat for him. Childe has 2 different E bursts. His burst with the bow will deal AoE hydro damage, which will inflict the Riptide status on enemies that are hit by this. I personally rarely use this because I have high crit rates for his melee stance. His second burst is when he's in his melee stance. This is a powerful AoE slash, which will also trigger Riptide Blast. By hitting enemies infected by Riptide, it'll cause an explosion, hurting all enemies within the area. By triggering the blast, enemies' Riptide status will be gone, but generally, this move typically kills them. You shouldn't have any problems triggering the blast, it's almost an automatic thing. Again, his crit damage will inflict Riptide status on enemies, but his E-burst slash ideally wouldn't be your opening move. His passives are freaking amazing: Riptide status extension, the crit effect I talked about, and increasing your party's normal attack talent, which is very helpful. For equipment, I use a very decent bow because it'll give him high crit rates, which is what I'm going for. It'll also offer some artifact flexibility, so I can focus on equipping stats like attack or crit damage. Besides, I don't really have a good crit rate artifact to use at the moment. I also love the cyclone effect from the weapon, grouping enemies together so I can use his Riptide effects and AoE hydro attacks more effectively. The passive cyclone damage from his bow really helps a lot in adding overall damage to enemies, which can also be triggered in his melee stance as well, so it just makes him even more deadly as a DPS. The Rust Bow is another highly recommended weapon for Childe since it dramatically increases his normal attack. For my artifacts, I use 2-piece Gladiator and Wanderer for a boost in attack and elemental mastery, since I use him to combo with Fischl at times. The main stats for the artifacts I'm using is attack. Since Childe is my main DPS, I would love a Hydro boost or something, but never got one to drop yet. For substats, crit rates is the main priority. Because the bow already enhances crit rates, I want to focus on damage for his artifacts, but the bow alone isn't enough, so the substats gives me a good balance of what I'm trying to build. My artifacts aren't fully leveled up yet, so he's only gonna get stronger. For the hat equipment, it's crit damage, again not fully leveled up, but he's going to crit a lot, and I mean a hell of a lot of time, so this is perfect for high damage output. Here's the general stats for my build. Again, it'll still grow, but crit rate is at 59%, which is still very consistent when using him. With my bow maxed out, it'll be at 61%, and I'm hoping the crit rate on some of my artifacts will increase once I max those out too. I'm still working on his crit damage. Childe is going to be your main DPS, so your team will mainly consist of supporters. Crit is his main role. A combination of buffers and debuffers like Bennett, Sucrose, Mona, and many others could excel Childe's crit damage well above 200k, one-shotting bosses. I'm sure you've seen some videos online already. You'll typically use his melee stance majority of the time because his attacks are insanely fast and is far more effective, and as mentioned, if you build his crits rate up, inflicting Riptide shouldn't be a problem. The bow stance will ideally be used as an opening attack, specifically his charge shot. Riptide Flash is a nice AoE attack, but consecutively doing charge shots is slow compared to just rushing in and performing Riptide Slash, which is far more effective for clearing mobs. Of course, you'll be forced to use his bow stance once 30 seconds are up for his E skill, and as a reminder, make sure you manually switch back to his bow, avoiding long cooldowns. Overall, Childe is a phenomenal DPS. It took me a while to get used to his stance switching, but once I did, he's fun to use. He's excellent as a mob clearer due to his Riptide abilities, and when building him as a crit unit, he's insanely effective as a boss killer, especially his second E-burst ability. So I highly recommend you summoning for Childe. He's a fast crit striker who has amazing passives as well. Some may find his stance switching a bit underwhelming, even boring at times, because it's nothing too flashy, but once you commit to building him, he's freaking awesome. You can't really go wrong with summoning Childe. So did you pull for him already? I know many are saving for Zhongli. I'll probably do some pulls for him, but my next main target is Xiao, since he looks freaking cool. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that thumbs up if you did, and subscribe to my channel for more Genshin Impact videos. Till next time everyone, good luck on your summons. I hope you get Childe or whoever you're going for, and have a great day.